It is often the case that student athletes seem to get most of the attention in schools, but since its inception in 2011, the Montwood Robotics team has established itself as one of the most successful teams in El Paso, Texas. The change has been gradual, but the robotics team is now the largest organization on campus and overall is as competitive as any high school sport. 50 members strong, the team has won several awards and completed thousands of community service hours, as well as being a strong contributor in STEM outreach in the community. Today, they will share how robotics is treated the same competitive standards of any successful sports team and help you build the programs at your school. So now to share the sport of the mind, Montwood Robotics, thank y'all so much for being here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Luis Ramirez, and I'm one of the coaches at Montwood High School in El Paso, Texas. And I'm here with my officers for this upcoming season. We want to thank you all for taking part of your day and joining us. And so we'll be talking about robotics, the sport of the mind, and how we encourage all teams to treat the robotics team, whether you're a coach or a member, looking to get into it, to treat it like an athletic organization at the professional level even. So our topic, while it ties perfectly in with this year's first theme, you can really apply it to any season. And while our school only competes in FTC, everything that we talked about today can be applied to an FLL team or even an FRC team. So on the agenda for today, we'll be talking about who we are as a school, what it took for us to get where we are now. Our officers will introduce themselves. We're going to be, we'll talk about why we believe this is an important topic, and we'll be using some sports terminology here and there. What we do in the preseason, what we do during the robotics season, and some of the things that we do postseason. And then at the very end, we'll have some time for questions and answers. So who are we? Again, we're Montwood High School from El Paso, Texas. We are a border town. We're on the border with Juarez, Mexico. And we're actually the only Texas city on Mountain Standard Time. So everybody, you all are 1 hour ahead of us. Because of our location, we do a lot of traveling, even to our local meets. El Paso is very spread out. On bus, it takes us 6 hours to get to the Lubbock competition with good traffic, about 10 hours to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, again, with good traffic conditions, and 10 hours if we ever had to travel to Austin. And we're expected to do about 12 to 14 hours driving to Houston. We are a 9-year-old robotics program. It all started when a colleague of mine had just started an engineering program at our school, and we were just looking for something engineering related to compete in. At the time, we did have a math team and a science team, but we were looking for something else for our students to compete in. And so I'm a FRC alum. I did FRC one of my years when I was in high school, and so the first thing I thought of was looking into first for robotics, and FTC had just started around that time. And so we kind of joined forces with the science team, recruited about 10 students, and started our very first team, 5470. We had 10, and then as the season went out, we started losing some members once they realized how much work it was actually going to take. But those 6 did very well. And the next year we had, maybe 10 to 15. And the year after that, maybe we got up to 20 plus. So around that time, it was time to start a brand new team. And so we started 5911. Those 2 teams are doing really strong. Interest in the team was really big. And so we currently now have a 50-member team at our campus. And we started a new team 14913. We've had a lot of success in the past, and most recently we took first and second place Inspire Award, the Lubbock, Texas Panhandle Plains Regional, and so that's a first for us. It allowed us to advance to the world competition, and I believe that's the first time anybody had one inspired to advance to worlds from El Paso, Texas. And so we're proud that both of those schools were from Montwood High School. And unfortunately, with everything that happened with COVID-19, we weren't able to compete, but we still have that competitiveness in us, and we know that we're going to do our best to get there again this year. So I'm going to go ahead and let the presenters introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Reyes Mata. I'm a rising senior, and I'm the current president of the Montwood Robotics organization. The reason I got into robotics was because in my elementary school, they started a robotics organization, and I already loved math and science, so going into robotics was very easy for me. And once I joined, I just got hooked and loved the program, and that's what brings me here today.
Hello, I'm Saeed Akul. I'm the vice president for the upcoming school year. I'm a rising senior, and I started robotics because I had this curiosity and interest in computers and how they work. So when I heard my middle school had this robotics organization, I joined, and ever since I found myself right at home.
Hi, my name is Imani Satanker, and I am the manager for this season, and I am a rising sophomore. I joined robotics in 4th grade because I loved math and science, and my teacher saw that in me, and she told me about robotics, and I've loved it ever since.
Hello there, I am Victor Vela. I am one of the team secretaries for Montwood Robotics, and I'm going to be a junior this year. And I mainly joined robotics because my Gateway to Technology and Math UIL teacher was also the robotics sponsor. And he really pushed me to join robotics because he knew that it would more likely than not interest me. And now that I've joined robotics, I love it and everything that it has to offer.
We'll go ahead and move on to Connor Martinez.
Hello, my name is Connor Martinez. I'm this year's historian. I'm going to be a senior this coming fall. And the reason I joined robotics is because I wanted to be a part of something bigger. And Montwood Robotics has felt like a place that I can do bigger things and do more with my academic career.
Hello, my name's Kayla Jimenez. I am going to be a junior. I am this year's sergeant at arms, and the reason I joined robotics was because I heard of it through a friend, and a lot of it seemed to match my general interests, and so then I joined, and it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Hello, my name is Valentina Valles. I'm going to be a junior, and this year I'm one of the team leaders. The reason I joined robotics was because my 6th grade math teacher told me he noticed how much of an interest I showed in math and science, so he suggested I join robotics, and I've been in it ever since.
So as you all can see, we have a good mixture of males and females on the team. We have everything from sophomores, juniors, and seniors in leadership. And it's good to have these staggered levels of students, and that way, you don't have a class of when all of your seniors graduate, you have to start rebuilding. It's very difficult to rebuild. Okay. A while back, I was reading on the FIRST website, and I read an article said that robotics is the only high school sport where any kid can go pro. And so I really took that to heart. And for the past few years, this is kind of the mentality that we have been operating under. So during this presentation, we're going to be exploring the ways to approach the ways that we explore and approach our team like an athletic sports team. Our school, Montwood High School, has had a history of successful sports programs. Our football team, our baseball team, our cheerleaders, they regularly bring home district championships and trophies, and they're often celebrated big at our school. And so these past few years, we've created a culture at our school that we too are a team that deserves the same recognition as athletes. So now, currently, I mean, we're a team that has a permanent spot at our prep rallies. And I'm proud to say that we're one of the largest teams on campus. If not the largest, maybe we're only second place to like a high school varsity team that has all those guys on the sidelines. On our team, all 50 members of us are active participants. We're a 6A school, so we're a pretty large school. The kids have a lot of options. And again, the fact that we're able to keep and maintain about 50 every year is something that we're very happy with. We're going to go over topics such as team uniforms, practices, advancements, and the pressure of actual competitions. So here are some of the things that we do in the preseason.
So as you know, knowing the rules to anything is important if you want to participate in it, whether it be sports, robotics, or even engineering. In engineering, you need to make sure you know the rules and constraints to a project before you attempt to do it, because if you attempt to take on a project that you don't understand fully, then you're going to have to go back to redesigning and over and over and over again, and you're just going to make a less effective product than what you would have had if you just took the time to understand the rules. Now, in sports, for example, basketball is a sport that you have to know the rules of the game very thoroughly. For example, fouls. Playing defensively can be very effective in slowing the other team down and making sure that your team doesn't fall too far behind in the points. But if you're too aggressive and you start interfering with the other team by physically moving them or physically touching their body, then you foul on the other team. Now, what happens with the foul is that they get a free throw, well, 2 free throws. So now instead of being able to defend against the shots, you now give them an opportunity to make 2 completely free shots where you cannot defend at all. This is also seen in robotics. You can play defensively, but if you stay in front of a robot blocking them for too long, you get penalized and you lose points. So instead of helping your team, you hurt your team. Knowing the rules is important also in the ways of making the robot. For example, last year there was a team that stacked their blocks by picking up the stack they previously had and placing a block underneath it. Now, many of you may think, wait a minute, that goes against the rule of controlling more than one skystone. But this team understood that you can control more than one skystone if you are in control of the foundation. With this understanding of the rule, that team was able to make a much more effective and functional robot that outcompeted many other more traditional robots that year. This is just an example of how you need to understand the rules before you compete, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to compete at that same caliber that the other teams are.
The next important aspect of a team is time commitment. And this is understanding how much time you have for the upcoming season. Time spent in the classroom, or for an athletic team, the time they have for drilling and training and all the practices they do during the week. An example of this would be UIL football, which they have a rule which limits how much time they can practice during the week. So if they practice one day of the week, they're limited to 3 hours maximum of practice with an hour break. And if it was 2 days of the week, they have a maximum of 5 hours for that week with the hour break. And so this shows how much time they know they have for the season to practice and know what to prioritize for that practice. And the same is applied to a robotics team. It's understanding how to manage your time when building the robot or researching the robot or looking up the rules for the following season, programming, coordinating outreach events, and all of the other important aspects for the team. And it's also knowing how you spend outside time outside the classroom. Knowing how much you spend outside doing research and practicing, like in this picture showing 2 of our drivers practicing outside of the classroom.
Now, eligibility is a big one. If you're not eligible, you can't play. And UIL wants to make it clear that it prioritizes your school over your competition. Now, not only does it mean you can't play, but if you're not eligible, you're not reliable, because if you can't play, then you're just not going to be that effective as a team member who may not be as great a player as you, but is always there consistently. Because it doesn't matter if you're the best quarterback or lineman, or you're the best shooter in a basketball team. If you're not there, it doesn't matter. An example of this is at Montwood, there was a baseball player who could have been on the varsity team, but because he was failing a class, they put him on the JV team because they couldn't depend on him to be there. This also happened similarly to one of our robotics members. A past leader, she wasn't able to go to a state competition because she wasn't passing one of her classes. Now, she was a very important member of the team and she contributed a lot, but she wasn't passing. So you need to make sure that you as an individual are reliable and passing your classes, because that's what's important.
Just as important is budgeting. And this is knowing how much money and how much you have of it to spend on the resources that you're required to spend on. For a athletic team, this could vary from their uniforms or their sport equipment, such as the footballs, the basketballs that they require to use for their drills and practices, and transportation and lodging fees if they advance and move out of the city for a competition, registration fees, and all of these things also apply for a robotics team. Robotics team also requires to pay registration fees, lodging fees, transportation, food for those competition days, and the robot parts and electronics that are required for the actual robot. And so it's knowing how you manage your money appropriately to the resources that are required.
Now, a great way to get these funds is through fundraising. And fundraising isn't just effective in raising money, it's also effective in promoting who you are as an organization and getting the community to know more about you and what you do. What we've done in the past is we've sold chocolates, fortune cookies, and we've used this website called Raise Me, or SnapRaise, I'm sorry. What SnapRaise does is basically you're able to send this information to your family and friends, and they can support you by giving donations. Now, a large portion of these donations goes to your team, and you can use these to buy, say, linear actuators or build kits or control hubs. And these things are expensive, so you need these means of getting money. I mean, control hubs can be up to $300, expansion hubs $175. And same thing goes for sports. I mean, helmets can go up to $300, and shoulder pads can cost up to $240. And the way they do things is, yes, they use SnapRaise as well, because we know that teams at our school have used it, but they also do fundraisers with restaurants. Like our softball team did a fundraiser with Applebee's, where basically they told their family, hey, go to Applebee's, and if you say that you're there for the softball team, a portion of that money will go to our team. So just be conscious on what you have to do in order to raise funds, because a lot of what you need is going to cost money. And you as a team can achieve in getting that money by fundraising.
A large portion of the first competition is outreach. And this is typically accomplished through by promoting first STEM ideals and engineering in the community through fundraising, community service, showcases, etc. And this is and one thing that Montwood Robotics does is we volunteer at a SISD competition in our district called Robocom, and this is our first Lego League competition. We attend there, we volunteer there as judges and just volunteers who are just willing to help out the competition, make sure it goes as smoothly as possible, and make sure the kids have a great time and understand the wonders of robotics. And this is very similar to sports teams, because sports teams sometimes will spread empowering messages through their involvement in the community. One example of this would be NBA Cares. This is a organization where NBA basketball stars go around in the community and do various acts to show and spread messages that are very positive. For example, they'll do soup kitchens, they'll go to orphanages, they'll visit kids in the hospital. They just want these kids to know that they're not alone and that there's always someone there about to be by their side.
The last topic that we'll be going over that pertains to the preseason of robotics is team structuring, which we have divided into 3 subtopics, and the first is varsity and developmental. School sports teams consist of a varsity team full of more experienced players and a junior varsity team with new recruits and most often freshmen. In this team, students develop into more experienced players until they obtain the possibility of moving up to the varsity team in the future. In robotics, schools with more than one team may take a similar approach. For example, our school is divided into 3 teams. We have 2 varsity and 1 developmental team. And although we take a nearly identical approach, the only difference is that in some cases, we allow new members into varsity teams in order for them to shadow experienced team members. The second subtopic is leadership. Listening to your coaches is important, especially during matches when tensions run high. Just like how a boxer needs to listen to his corner during a fight, drivers are to listen to their coaches during their match. Otherwise, they would become confused and frustrated. Most sports and robotics members are expected to demonstrate initiative through their contributions to the team daily. In football, players can reach out to their teammates in order to go over plays before their games. In robotics, if a building notices that they are not needed in their own department, they take initiative and check in with other departments to see if help is needed elsewhere. The last subtopic is that participating members have roles. In both robotics and sports, the contributions from each position or department are essential to the success of the team. The positions of a basketball team are point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. In robotics, we have departments, and they're building, programming, outreach, notebook, art or display, and gracious professionalism. Players are expected to follow the play according to their position. For example, in football, quarterbacks are responsible for calling signals during the game. In robotics, coaches are to instruct the drivers on what to do during their matches. In both scenarios, if expectations are not fulfilled, the players who depend on those instructions will not be able to execute their roles.
So we just finished talking about the things that we can take care of and do before the season even starts. And even now, we're working on all of those things. We had our officer elections before the school year even ended last year. We're in the middle of doing a fundraiser currently where you can consider this presentation the officers are giving as a form of outreach. So we haven't even found out what the actual task for this year is, but we're already on top of it and getting ready for when we actually do know what the competition is. Here are now some of the things that we do during the season once the game has been revealed.
Analyzing opponents are so that we know how to operate and get a better feel of strategies we should be incorporating on our own. And it also helps teams understand what needs to be done to succeed or decide what needs to be taken out. In football, the team watches their opponents' past games to see how they play and their strengths and weaknesses. In robotics, the team watches their opponents in matches to see what their robot can do and how the team players call their plays. Robotic teams also use this to see who they want their alliance teams to be if their team advances.
Another thing that can be seen throughout the season is discipline and the practicing of skills and techniques. Team members work out of the classroom or lab to improve. For example, outside of the gym, athletes will study how other athletes play and train, whether it be through footage or articles. This also applies to robotics, though, when members research about different mechanics and strategies that can be applied to the robot or on the field. Which leads to our next point. In order for a team to reach their full potential, some lifestyle changes are encouraged. Athletes usually focus on a certain muscle to develop, or even change their diets to accommodate their sport. And although it is not visible, robotics works on improving the brain, and members adjust their schedules to stay late nights working on strategies and their robots.
Having an audience is something that is important in both robotics and in sports. Audiences can raise the team spirit and help improve their competitive drive. Usually at sports games, you'll see that the team has brought their mascot, and in the crowd, you'll see that the audience is holding up posters or signs cheering up their favorite team. Here at Robotics, we have the same thing where we bring along our mascot, Rocky the Ram, and we make posters for the audience to hold up. Sometimes you'll even see some of the other members of the robotics team who are not currently competing cheering on the other teams.
Something that everyone goes through, whether in athletics or robotics, is winning, losing, and reflecting. After a match, a team needs to go back and reflect on what went right or wrong in competition so that they may improve. Teams may also reflect on what their opponents did or did not do to improve as well. After a game, a team will not use the same strategy and stop training for the next game. They have to adapt and adjust to what they learned in the game. The same applies for robotics. We adjust our robots or have our drivers approach a problem in a different manner to increase our likelihood of winning.
Advancements are rewarded to teams who perform well in a competition, and they give teams an opportunity to receive further rewards. In robotics, you start at local, which for us is UTEP. Then if you qualify, you go to regionals, which for us is Lubbock. If you are awarded first or second place in Spires or have won the finals along with your first choice alliance team, you qualify to Worlds. This was the first time a team from El Paso qualified to go to Worlds, not only one, but two. Though Worlds got canceled due to COVID-19, we are still hungry to do the same this season. You can only compete in UIL state as if your team gets selected. In football, if you have won the games in your city, you qualify for playoffs, which you will compete with all the teams in your state. If you have not lost any games in the playoffs, then you and another team compete to become the state champions for that season.
Having the drive is universal to anything that you do, whether it be sports or robotics or just in life. If you don't have the drive, you're not going to go very far. Because when you have the drive, the dedication, the effort, the time, and everything else comes naturally. And drive doesn't just mean to like, yeah, that would be nice to have. It means you really need to want it. You really need to be the one that is telling others, hey guys, we need to fix this arm. We need to stay a little bit later. We have to do X, Y, Z. It's the drive that pushes you there. Everyone on our team has a lot of drive and cares very much about the success of the organization. I personally go during the mornings to the robotics lab, during my lunch, and after school I stay late because I really care for what happens to our team. I have the drive. And this is in all sports. I've seen athletes stay later. I've seen athletes change their diets. I've seen athletes practice on their own time. And this drive is universal. So what you need to do is you need to eat, breathe, and sleep robotics. And everyone that's joined this webinar is doing a great job on showing their drive because they're taking time from their day to participate in this and learn on how they can improve their robotics in the robotics competition. So I applaud you on your drive.
Something that is necessary for athletics and robotics is good sportsmanship, or in other words, ensuring a friendly competition. It is important to be professional and respectful towards other teams and encourage each other. As we all know, FTC encourages us all to exercise gracious professionalism. Athletes are known to practice matches with other teams and even go on retreats with them. In robotics, our team in Montwood has made posters, keychains, goodie bags, and we even cheer for other teams on the stands, showing our gracious professionalism.
Team uniforms. Team uniforms are certain logos and colors that are used to identify what your team is. And team uniforms can be used to send a message or emphasize a motto or theme. An example of this is that we all wear Montwood Robotics shirts that relate to the theme of the FTC theme for this year. In other ways, in El Paso, we have this motto called El Paso Strong. This is a motto that came from after a deadly shooting in 2019, August 3rd. They killed 23 people, and the motto El Paso Strong means that we as El Paso will not stop, and will from this tragic event and be together. Social skills. In every team, there's going to be mingling, and social skills are very important to have less toxicity and closer bonds from all the teams. And like every sport, they also need to have close bonds to have better plays and have better camaraderie. And we have social events such as homecoming that we participate in. We participate in painting of the walls for homecoming. We tried our best to hit first place for homecoming, for the homecoming walls, and we did it with our Japanese theme. And with robotics, we also compete with the other teams such as varsity football and varsity basketball in these small events like this. And it helps us bring better bonds with not only just the clubs, but with everybody else.
My apologies. So those are some of the things that we will typically do during the season. Looking uniform, cohesive, and getting that team camaraderie so that we don't have to deal with any drama during the season, or at least minimizing it. Next, we'll talk about some of the things that we do and take care of once the season is over.
Letterman Jackets are given to certain team members that meet certain requirements. In sports, if the player is in varsity for 2 years and has a passing grade, they will get a Letterman Jacket. Last year was the first year that our school has also given the opportunity to give robotic members Letterman Jackets. In robotics, if you have been on the team for more than 2 years and has given the dedication, has a passing grade, and the community service hours, you will earn a Letterman Jacket.
It's important to note that athletes and members of robotics, by participating now, are preparing for the future. Participants are benefiting from their time by demonstrating a set of skills and dedication. They learn knowledge and skills that can also be applied to the university level, such as discipline, hard work, being able to adapt, being self-sufficient, and learning how to be a team player. Not only are skills earned, but even money for their future. In the picture here, we have our robotics seniors earning a scholarship to a local university. And in Montwood High School, we had a senior signing day for our athletes who would get signed by universities to participate in their teams.
We just saw recently a video released by FTC. He used golf as an example. You're more likely to get hired and picked up for being a part of an FTC team or a robotics team versus being a member of a golf team. Not to bash on golf or anything, golf is perfectly fine, but the likelihood of you getting some college advancement opportunities or even hiring opportunities is there in FIRST. So we've reached the end of our presentation. We have plenty of time for any questions that you all might have for us.
Well, that's incredible. Thank you so much, Luis, and the Montwood Robotics students for that incredible presentation. I tell you, you are doing incredible things to change mindsets and promoting robotics within your community and within your school. That is absolutely incredible. We have a few questions. So I was going to see, I know that you had mentioned varsity and developmental, those two different ones. How do you determine if team members are on varsity or if they're on developmental?
At our school, as long as anybody is willing to put in the work and put in the time, then they are automatically on the robotics team. And so we don't have any tryouts like they would on a sports team. So if the interest is there, you have the time, you can join the team. Now, if you're a freshman, the freshman will automatically, that might be different from what most sports do, but freshmen will automatically get a chance to be a part of one of our 2 varsity teams. And that way they can get a taste for it, shadow the experienced members, and learn as much as they can from them. And then based off how they do on that team, determines, the next year whether they're going to stay on that team or they're going to be maybe move down to where a developmental where they need just refining their skills, refining their participation. Maybe they're not as active as some of the other members. They would move down and show us that they really deserve to be moved up to the varsity team. And I also asked for the officers' input because, the officers are the ones that are working and they're in the trenches with with the team more so than I am. They know who is working more than I do at times. So I asked for the officers' input. Look, we go down the line and we look at every student. We say, let's talk about this student. How are they doing? Do they deserve to be on this team? Should we move them down? What should we do?
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. And I know that one part of, like with any team, all teams face obstacles. What kind of obstacles have you guys faced in just developing this mindset within your school? So can you address that?
Well, people walk by our room and they know that it's the robotics team, and some people will walk by and say, well, that's too hard for me, or no way I could ever be in something like that. And we try to just crush that. Like, again, we are as inviting as possible. We don't turn anyone away as long as the curiosity is there. We try and invite. And we have a ton of different obstacles. When our school was built, it was really just built to be an overflow from the flagship school in our district. And so they built our school with small classrooms, small hallways, not much lab space. So after fighting for it for a few years, I started off in a regular classroom, and then they finally gave me 2 classrooms, but they were right next to each other, and so there was still a wall. And so the students would have to go from one classroom to the other classroom. Eventually, I finally convinced them to knock down the wall. And so that we have now just one regular classroom that's, twice the size, but we still have so much stuff that we need to store things. So I just started putting things in the copy room and said, you know what? I'm tired of asking for storage. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And if they get mad at me, then I'll apologize and I'll figure something else out. But once they saw all the stuff that we put in there, they were actually pretty cool with it. They know we're making the school look good, so they don't give us too many problems. Now there's construction being done at our school finally, and so we're crossing our fingers that maybe we get to be some kind of new lab.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think that in itself is incredible. I know that you had talked about practicing and getting ready for each of the meets. Like, what exactly do you do in order to practice to get ready? Like, what is your time frame on that, and how often do you do that? What are the requirements for the teachers? And I think I have Reyes said he would be happy to address that one. Can you hop on and answer that one for us?
Yes, so we like to practice at least 1 week before any competition. So that means we have all the building done a week before and we start hitting the autonomous. We'll divide our time between working on the autonomous and working on the teleop. So autonomous usually takes the most amount of time just because it's a lot of trial and error and setting things up again. But after we spend about 2 days on the autonomous, then we'll work about a day on the teleop. And then the other 2 days we'll work on running matches. Now running matches we'll get either other teams in our organization, or we'll ask other teams from different schools like, hey, we're gonna be having some practices. Do you guys wanna join? Now, when you do that, you get a good insight on what other teams have, and you can help other teams as well as help yourself. So it's just a great way to get a real feel on how the competition's gonna go, because during these practices, things do go wrong. Mechanisms fail, electronics cut out, maybe something's not working as you intended it to, but being able to see this before going to competition is really helpful, so you're not at competition shocked at what went wrong.
Well, thank you very much. That was an incredible answer.
And I want to add, can I add a little bit to that?
Of course.
When we're practicing, sometimes when they don't even know it, I'll just jump in there and I'll pretend to be a human robot. And my whole entire goal is just to disrupt their plan, because they need to be prepared for the unexpected. I'm going to go and just stand and block their entire process, pretending that it's one of our alliances that's just completely lost all power. And so the more we prepare for the unexpected, the more, like, you throw these little obstacles, the better they'll be and the more calm they'll be when something inevitably does go wrong during a match.
Incredible. Thank you. And as I am asking these questions, of course, if any of the students would like to answer these as well, please feel free. Okay, what do you guys do to really work on establishing a feeder pattern so that you are always having a constant flow of students coming into your program? I mean, at what grade levels do you really kind of start targeting?
I would say about 5 years ago, our district has really just bought into FIRST all the way. We understand there's other competitions out there. We know VEX is really big. It's really big within the city. We know there's also Best Robotics out there, but our district really goes and they love the values of FIRST. And so we started adopting elementary and middle school competition, which we, myself and the students help with, called Robocom. At first, we were using all of the FLL game elements to have our own competition, but it got a little bit too complicated, so we just went on with FLL. We have 50 participating teams at just our district alone. And so we're the main volunteers for this competition. And so we have our kids out there talking to the elementary and the middle school kids. We're out, we're very present. We're acting as refs, we're acting as runners, we're acting as judges, never putting them down, just trying to get them excited about robotics at the same time, promoting ourselves, trying to get them to come to Montwood High School, because they actually do have the option to come to Montwood for our STEM program. And so we're able to recruit. I noticed that there are some people here in the audience that send their students our way. And I'm happy to report that there's a lot of middle school coaches now that they think that maybe FLL might be a little bit too easy for them. So now they started their own FTC team. So we're seeing more and more middle school FTC teams springing up, and we always try to invite them to come to our campus for, whether they need help in programming, building, whether they need tools, whether they need motors, just tips, and they can also use our field to practice.
Awesome. That's incredible. I know that some individuals have asked, do you have is it a robotics class you have, or is this just an after-school extracurricular program? I mean, do you have time allotted in class?
Well, it originally started no robotics class. We just met Mondays and Wednesdays after school, and that was just too little time. We would meet Saturdays sometimes, but now the district again is supporting teachers, and they created a 9th period, just an after-school robotics class. So normally those students that would take the bus, our school day ends at 4 p.m. and students will take their bus and go back to their feeder pickup and drop-off sites. They have actually created a bus just for the robotics team, because we know that we stay many hours later. And so it's not it is an official class, but it's just not during the normal day, kind of like 0 period band.
Awesome. I have a question from David, and he would like to know, what things would you like from middle school teachers to reinforce for students as they prepare for high school robotics?
I could answer that also. I would tell them that it's okay to fail. It's okay when things do not go exactly how you plan for them, because I mean that happens at our level. You learn more from your failures than your successes. Another thing, it's okay to ask questions and go online and look at some of the mechanisms that are already out there. There are so many great FTC teams around the country that put they have their training videos for free available. They want to just create this bigger and greater robotic building culture. And so the videos are available out there. Check them out. Reach out to your high schools, and they'll try to help whenever they can. I know that we do that as much as we possibly can.
Well, and I was going to ask some of the students this question. What skills do you guys wish you had coming in or going into high school that you had learned in middle school? Like, what do you wish you had been taught in middle school so you would be all prepared for that high school experience? Can any of you guys jump on and help answer that?
Kayla. Go ahead, Kayla.
All right, so I know when I entered in high school, I was very shy and timid, and that is just one thing that robotics will break out of you. But I really wish that I had learned that in middle school. And I know sometimes people are kind of sheltered in middle school because there's there's this outstanding student, but it's okay if you're not always in the spotlight, and it's good to break out of your shell when you can.
That was an excellent answer. Does anybody else have anything? Because I think it's important especially with addressing this question, I think it's important to hear from the students with this.
Saeed?
I'd like to add on, and that's one thing that I really wish I knew before coming in is terminology, because that's one of the things communication really lies on. When you understand the terminology and how you communicate effectively with it, understanding what a game element is, what an op mode is, teleop, autonomous, all these different words that are commonly used during the classroom and during robotics. Knowing this really helps you communicate with the other teams and within your own team.
Excellent. Well, thank you so very much. I hope that answered that question well for David. And I had another question. Someone had asked, with such a large team that you guys have, how are you planning to adjust to new restrictions and limitations that may be out there for this next season?
That is the million-dollar question. And that's the one that's keeping me up at night, because we're going to have, a lot of, definitely they're going to reduce the amount of students that can attend to school. We're trying to social distance. I mentioned earlier, I don't have very much lab space. As it is right now, we're all on top of each other. We pour out into the hallway and try and get our work done. I wish I had a great answer for you right now, but the truth is I don't. And I have a couple of ideas in my head, but it's definitely going to be something that we have to work on. We could do staggered. One team will meet Mondays, one team will meet Tuesdays. That could be a possible solution. Or worst case scenario is I'm going to have to cut the amount of members per team. But it's definitely something that COVID it's affecting us. It's going to affect us.
Right, it's affecting everyone. Okay, here's a question for you and for the students. How does your team interact with the athletic teams there at the school?
I'm going to answer, but I want some of the students to also add on. Again, our campus is, they have competitions all the time. And so we try to compete, and they get mad at us. We end up winning a lot of these competitions, whether it be, homecoming wall decoration, the parades, or raising money for our winter fair. And again, our strength is in our numbers. We have so many members that we all just kind of like, oh, here's the next one, guys, here we go. And we just have a surge of students working on this one particular competition. And again, I'm not sure if I mentioned it. Oh, I think I did. We have pep rallies at our campus, and usually they celebrate the football team or the basketball team, the baseball team. Now they recently started adding us. And so when it's our turn, we go out, we run out with our, the pads that we have for the field, we lay them out, and we make up our own competition. But now, because of that, we have students that I've never talked to before. They come up and ask us questions like, "Whoa, did you guys build that all by yourselves?" Like, yes, we did. And so how would I sign up for this? And so it's pretty great to see that they're not just, again, celebrating the athletes, but now they're celebrating our robotics members.
Oh, that's awesome. Do any of the students want to add on to that? Just jump on.
Magali? Magali,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So something that I added on to what Mr. Ramirez has said is that I'm actually part of the swim team at Montwood High School. And something that I love to do is I love talking about how fun robotics is to the rest of my team. And like most of my team are really smart, so I try to encourage them to just try it out. Even if you don't know how to build something, or if you don't know what programming is, we have people there to help, teach you. It's not like you need to know what's like happening for you to be able to join the team.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Thank you so much. And then oh yes, please. We have someone else.
I just wanted to add one more point, and that's I know for many of us, we also have friends who are also part of these athletic teams. And so that also really helps since we meet many of our friends during the school day, we also convene a lot about what goes on in our own organizations and the competitions we compete in. And it's just really helpful to have these bonds within these various organizations.
That's incredible. Thank you. Thank you for that. And so I have another question for the students. I would like to know, what skills do you think you guys have learned, and how do you think that is going to help you in the future? Reyes? Who's going to take this one, Mr. Luis?
Definitely, I've learned how to use simple machines like gear ratios or how pulleys work and linear slides and everything from the mechanical aspect. Also a little bit of programming, but I think what was most important that I learned is how to interact with the team and how to effectively lead a team. And at first, I was very headstrong and I really didn't like listening to other people's ideas because I think my idea is going to work. I want to go this way. But after seeing other team members and seeing how they lead and how it was more effective than what I was doing, and their approach to what do you guys think? How can we improve on this? And it being better than what I originally thought. So learning how to be more humble and learning how to listen and learn from others is definitely a skill that I'm grateful to have learned from robotics. And I think it's going to be universal in anything that I do.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I know one thing that I learned personally in robotics is definitely time management and taking initiative. Like I said before, I was very distant with people. I would just be in my own world most of the time. But with robotics, I really learned to take initiative and just go for what I want to do and what I feel will make me feel good and what I feel like I can help and contribute to the team. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much.